Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marisa Kazem, and today I'm going to be showing you my March setup in my bullet journal. So this past week, I actually just hit my first 1,000 subscribers, and I first just wanted to say thank you to all of you who have recently joined my channel and who have been supporting my content. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad you're here. So for this month, I chose Ariel as my theme. For those of you who are new to my channel, every month I'm picking a different Disney princess since there are 12 official Disney princesses. So my entire concept with all of these themes is basically not to draw the characters, but mainly focus on the elements of the movie. That's what I did for the first 2 months. However, for this month, I do actually draw Ariel and Triton near the very end of this video, so if you do want to see that, it'll be towards the end. And on this page, I decided to have Flounder and Sebastian on the quote page. I kind of regret it because I feel like they draw a lot of attention away from Atlantica, and I wanted that to be the main focus, but everyone loves Sebastian and Flounder anyway, so I thought why not, they look cute there. For this painting of Atlantica, I decided to use the reference from the Disney Castle collection that's released on Shop Disney. They have a castle collection where they've released 10 different castles based on the movies, and this version of Atlantica actually looks quite different to the ones in the film. There's The Little Mermaid, The Little Mermaid 2, Ariel's Beginning, and The Little Mermaid the series, and I looked at Atlantica in all of them, and they all look a little bit different to this. But the one thing I liked about this reference the most is that it was the most structured. Like the other versions of this castle looks very wishy-washy, whereas this was very high definition and easier to replicate. And I really liked how the entranceway of the castle was very clear, and I just loved all of this dark blue-green area at the bottom. Atlantica is always shown as very gold and shining, and I still wanted to capture that, but I really wanted to show how under the sea it is, and if it is on the bottom of the sleeve floor, realistically it would be green and blue as well, with, you know, some stuff growing on it. So I really wanted to show that off in this painting. For this setup, I used just watercolors again. I didn't do any gouache or markers. I used markers for some other things, but all of the paintings and illustrations are done with a fine liner and watercolors, and I'll leave a link in the description for all the products that I use. For my quote page, I decided to use the quote, "Who says my dreams have to stay just my dreams?" And this is something that Ariel says, but she doesn't say it in the movie. It's from the series. There's an episode where she's singing about wanting to dance like a human, and the beginning of the song starts with that line, and I really like it. It's very cute, very Ariel, so I thought, why not have that on the cover page? And so this is my calendar and goals spread. Now I know this looks crazy, and I felt like going a little crazy with this. If you saw my previous setup from February, I did a Beauty and the Beast theme, and I recreated the library on an entire page, and I loved that. And for this month, I kind of wanted to recreate a whole scene of the movie as well, and I decided to recreate Ariel's grotto. There were many scenes that I wanted to recreate, but I feel like you can't think about Ariel and not think about her grotto. Like, it's so vital to her character and the show, and not the show, but you know, the movie. It's very important, a very important aspect of who she is. And I wanted to draw so many things in this spread. So you can see I've got the statue of Prince Eric, and on the floor there's a candle holder which has a knife, fork, and spoon in it, and that is what we see her doing. Like, she puts the fork in there right at the beginning before she starts singing. Then the helmet on the floor is something that Flounder swam into, and then there's a mug of some sort on the floor as well next to the sword, and that's something that Sebastian got stuck in. And then on the left side, on the first shelf, There's the dancing figurine that she looks at when she says she wants to see them dancing. And also on the left at the very top, there's a very miniature version of that painting that she looks at. I don't know if you guys remember, but she sings to herself, "What's a fire and why does it burn?" And it's a famous painting of this woman looking at a candle. And I just did a very quick, simple sketch of it because I was not about to replicate a massive painting the size of my thumb. I could not do that, but I thought I would just draw a mini one in the corner there. And yeah, the rest of these objects, I did look at her grotto and tried to copy as many of the objects as I can. I wasn't too detailed with it, I was very wishy-washy. For example, the globe, I know that she was like resting on a globe at some point, so I wanted to include that, but I did not actually draw the world map on there. I just drew a few blobs and colored them green because the spread is already a lot itself. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this spread. I never realized that Ariel collects so many pots and books. Like if you fully look at the grotto and like analyze it, everything closer to the floor is more diverse, but as you go up in her grotto, it's just books and pots. But I didn't just want to draw that, so I kept trying to add more details to make it look a little bit more varied throughout the spread. Also, when I began this spread, the first thing I did was paint a light blue wash over the entire thing. And if you are going to recreate this spread, I would really recommend not doing that. It didn't really add much blue, and all I basically did was wet the entire page and make it crease. As you noticed, I went in on each shelf individually and colored the back of each shelf dark blue, and then I kind of added more water and just smeared the blue all over the objects, and that gave the effect that I wanted. Basically, I wanted all of the objects to have a light blue wash over them. Ariel's grotto is inside a cave, and the only light source coming in is from the top, and it's a hole that is smaller than her. Like we see at the end of the song, she can't fit through it, so there wouldn't be much light in this cave, and everything would look blue since the walls are blue. However, after filling in all of the items with a little bit of blue, I did go over them in browns and golds just to make them look more like actual items, because it wouldn't be completely blue, you would be able to see some color. But yeah, if you're gonna recreate this, don't just smear blue all over the page like I did. That did not do anything, it just made it more difficult for me to paint on, but I still got the result I wanted, so I was really happy with that. Also, so I'm just gonna quickly explain why I chose Ariel for March. March is my dad's birthday, and for those of you who are new to my channel, my dad died in February 2021, and it has been a year since he died. And his birthday and his funeral were in March. So I thought March is just all about my dad. I really wanted to represent him, and he loved Ariel. He always said that Ariel and Triton's relationship reminded him of me and him, and I definitely see it. I feel like me and my dad were always Ariel and King Triton, and when I was a kid, my dad would take me to Disneyland, or I think Disneyland Paris, Florida. I've been to a lot of the different Disney parks, and we would always watch the parade, and every time Ariel would come by, he would put me up on his shoulders so that I could see Ariel. And you know, Ariel is just a big thing for me and my dad. It was something that we shared. So for his birthday month and the anniversary of his funeral, I thought I should do an Ariel-inspired theme in honor of him. So for my mood tracker, this is the rock that Ariel sits on when Sebastian sings Under the Sea to her. And it's such a uniquely shaped rock, so that's why I really wanted to draw it. And basically for each day of the month, I'm going to color a different flower. The flowers in the movie that are on that bed of pink flowers are orange and blue. But I decided to just pick my own color palette for the flowers since they're so small, and I'm basically just gonna color a different flower for each day of the month, and I thought that would look really cute. So for my habit tracker and weight tracker, I decided to draw Ursula's lair, but without the background details. I basically just drew the main elements that I remembered from the movie, which is her shell, which I believe is meant to be her bed. It's never exactly clear, but we do see her come out of that shell. And then the hanging, I don't know if it's seaweed or whatever it is, but it's pink. And then on the bottom we have her cauldron where she does all her spells. And I really love this spread. Purple's my favorite color, so this spread was gorgeous, but also evil at the same time because it's not like a light, happy purple. It's very dark, grungy purple. And this whole spread just really screams Ursula, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun to draw, especially the shell. And the little pink streamers hanging down. She used one of them when she was singing, like she wrapped it around her head at one point, so I felt like I had to include those. And yeah, I thought this was a really fun piece of artwork to do for this setup. So I started using watercolor in my bullet journal in January, and so this is the 3rd month now that I'm using watercolor, and I think I am getting more used to it, but there are 2 paintings later on that I used way too much water and I kind of destroyed them, so be aware that can happen if you are going to use watercolor in your journal. But so far I've been loving it. One thing I've noticed about using gouache in your bullet journal is that it will rub off on your fingers. Like, even when the painting is dry, months later, you touch it, the paint can come off on your fingers, and I would have like fingerprints of paint like all over my journal, and it would really annoy me. But watercolor doesn't do that. Once it's dry, it's not going anywhere and it's not coming off on your hands. So that's more appealing about it. And with watercolor also, if you draw a lot of detail with a fine liner, the pigment of the watercolor will not cover the fine liner, which is really important to me when I'm doing all these detailed setups, because like, especially like I've done a lot of castles, and for a castle there's tons of small details and I don't want it to be a blur of paint. I want my fine liner to show through. So I would definitely recommend watercolor for this kind of stuff. But you can also use gouache. The benefit of gouache is that you don't need as much water and you are less likely to damage your pages. So this is my finances and my brain dump page. I'm still new to finance pages, but I liked how I set it up last month, so I decided to do the same setup this month. And for my brain dump, so far I have been doing the castle on each spread. I did Snow White's castle for January, I did the Beast's castle for February, and for March I'm doing Eric's castle on my brain dump. I honestly think this is my favorite painting from the whole setup. It came out exactly how I wanted to, and I felt like I was very careful with the watercolor, and I tried to, you know, reflect on what I've learned about watercolor in these last few months, and it just came out exactly how I wanted it to. The reference that I used for this painting was a screenshot from the movie, and I think it is the most detailed part of the whole movie. Like, when I looked for images of Eric's castle online and I saw this, I thought that looks like some edited HD picture. I don't think that's from the movie. So I went to the movie and scrolled through it and came upon Eric's castle, and it was the same reference. Like, it's so HD in comparison to the rest of the film, and I think that also made it a lot easier for me to replicate it because I could see a lot of details. And yeah, I just overall had so much fun with this painting. This is definitely my favorite castle that I've painted so far, and I'm excited for my next few months of painting different castles. Some princesses though don't have castles, like Pocahontas, Tiana, and Moana. They don't have castles, so I'm going to have to come up with something different for my brain dump for those princesses. But for this month, there were 2 castles I could choose from. There was Atlantica and Eric's castle. But since Eric's castle was more of a standard castle, I decided to paint that one for my brain dump. I tried to make this castle look as much like the reference photo as I could, but one difference I did make is that the sea, where the shore is, you can see a reflection of the castle very clearly in the water. However, I did not want to paint the castle twice in that water, so I just did a wash of a turquoise color and added some sparkles to it. But I'm actually so much happier that I did this instead, because I didn't want so much focus to be on the sea, I wanted it to be on the castle. And so I felt like just painting the color of the sea that I wanted and adding some sparkles really made the castle itself stand out, and I just thought it was beautiful and I loved it. If you are enjoying this setup so far and you want to see what princess I do next month and for the rest of the year, don't forget to like and subscribe. I would love to have you guys here to help me do different princesses and give me ideas in the comments. It's a lot of fun creating these spreads and I would love to have you guys involved in it. So this is my productivity log, where basically I highlight different hours of the day with what I'm doing, whether it's sleeping, being productive, or exercising and whatnot. And for this drawing, I decided to do the rock that Ariel sits on at the end of her song. You know, when she says part of your world and then her hair is flying everywhere. That's this rock. I just drew it without her on it. And I tried to keep the water very graphic, like it was drawn in the movie. I didn't want to make it look realistic because that would take too much time, and I wanted to make it feel like the movie, and that's how it looked in the movie, so that's exactly how I replicated it. So now I'm on to my weeklies. I'm just going to show you how I set up the first weekly, and then I'll just show you the drawings for the rest of the weeks. And I do Dutch doors for my weeklies. Some of them I cut and some of them I tape in. If you want to see an explanation of that, I will link the video down below. It was my bullet journal flip through where I explain that. So if you want to hear about that, I'll show it in the video below. Otherwise, I'm going to show you all the different paintings that I'm doing on each page of the weeklies. For this weekly, I wanted Under the Sea to be the vibe, so I drew specific fish from the film that we see during the song, and I really liked these fish. I liked them playing the instruments, and then I liked the two singing. And these fish really stand out. Like, there were a lot of fish in the film, but these ones really make me think of the song, so that's why I decided to have these ones here. Also, so I just wanted to ask you guys, my subscribers, for an opinion. So for this year, obviously I am doing Disney princess themes, and I'm basing them off of the movies, but I would love to think of a theme already for next year. I really love having all my themes planned in advance. Like, I already know I'm doing princesses for the whole year, so that makes it easier for me. But do you guys have any idea of what I could do for next year? Because right now I'm struggling to think of what I could do. I can't exactly do villains because I include villain content in all of these monthly setups, so I'm trying to think of what I could do for next year, but if you guys have any ideas, I would really appreciate hearing them. So if you could think of anything, leave a comment below and let me know what your ideas are, because I'm having a lot of fun doing these, and I guess I could continue with other Disney films or non-Disney films, but yeah, I'm just not sure, so let me know. For the month of March, there are mostly 5 weeks. It's kind of hard to tell because some months of the year seem to have 5 weeks and some have 4. But my dad's birthday is March 31st, so I'm basically always going to make my March theme 5 weeks long because I want to include my March theme on the day of his birthday. But since his birthday is the last day of the month, I have to include the 5th week. So for this month, I had to do an extra weekly, and I feel like I started running out of ideas, but I really hope you guys like what I did for the last week. I love it, and it was really special to me, so hope you guys like it. But for this weekly, I decided to do Ursula's necklace and Ursula's contract. I tried to mimic the writing on the contract the best as I can. The contract says, "I hereby grant unto Ursula, the Witch of the Sea, one voice," and then there's a bunch of small writing, and then it says, "For all eternity, signed Ariel." Anyway, onto this spread. This is based on the song Kiss the Girl by Sebastian. I decided to recreate the scene where they are on the boat and they're going towards the willow tree, which is painted on the other page. The willow tree is where a majority of the song occurs, but I decided to draw the whole scene because I loved it with the moon and everything. And I was very nervous about this painting when I started it because it's very dark and it was the sky, which is very blue, and then the water was very blue, and I wanted it to turn out right, and I loved how it turned out. But then I think it made me too confident for the next spread, because my next spread was another sky and water thing, and it looked awful in comparison to this one. So yeah, I got overconfident, but it doesn't matter. I love this spread. I love the vibe of the song. I loved when they were on the little boat together. It's so cute. Kind of reminds me of Rapunzel a bit. And yeah, I really love these paintings. Even though they're very dark, I thought they were very reminiscent of the movie. So for this spread, I decided to paint the end scene of the movie, which is where King Triton casts a rainbow over Ariel and Eric's wedding boat, and it was so cute in my head, but when I actually painted this, I used way too much water. I was trying to create a very light blue sky with a light blue sea, and it didn't turn out how I wanted, and the rainbow itself was very muddy. It wasn't like a cute blended soft rainbow, it was quite muddy. And I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm using a lot of water on the sky and the sea, so it ended up being very patchy and grainy. And this is what I was saying earlier about how watercolor can be tricky in a bullet journal. If this was watercolor paper, I wouldn't have had a problem. But yeah, if you are going to use watercolor in your journal, just be aware that sometimes you could use too much water without realizing it. That's what I did here. And with the boat, I even used too much water. Like, I don't know what was happening on these pages. I just, for some reason, was using a lot more water than the previous paintings. But it's okay, it happens. I loved the sparkles that I did on the rainbow though. Like, those are really cute. But I don't know if you guys noticed, but I added more water to the boat and used a tissue to blot off some of the paint, and it was just a whole mess, but it's okay. I still got the vibe I wanted. It just looks a lot muddier than I had hoped it to be. So this is the spread that I mentioned earlier where I draw Ariel and Triton. I actually drew them twice, and that's because my dad's birthday is in this week, and I did two different versions of this drawing. The first one is actually a scene from the movie when Ariel is all in love and she picks up a flower and she bumps into her dad, and then she tucks the flower behind his ear and keeps swimming, and she's singing to herself. And I thought that was a really sweet moment. Like, she's all in love and she sniffs the flower because she's like all happy and in love, but then she puts it behind her dad's ear. I thought it was really sweet, and I love that part of the movie. And then the other drawing where they're hugging, that's not in the movie. I don't think so anyway. But I saw a reference for something similar online, and I wanted to draw them hugging each other, so that's why I did this. But if you've noticed, I kept them both mostly faceless. Ariel is completely faceless. Triton, I had to draw his eyebrows and nose because it looked very freaky with just his mustache coming from nowhere, because a mustache is always right under a nose, so I kind of had to draw that. And I guess I just wanted to keep them faceless because I didn't want it to be so like Ariel and Triton in your face. I wanted it, for me at least, to feel like I'm looking at me and my dad when I'm flipping through this page. So that's kind of why I kept them faceless. So this last spread is my monthly check-in and my monthly review page. This year I've been keeping this page very simple and just doing some little doodles that remind me of the movie. So seashells and bubbles are very The Little Mermaid, so that's why I put them here. And I love having this at the end of my month. I just love filling it in. So yeah. So now it's time for the final flip through. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know which is your favorite spread or your least favorite spread. Which painting do you like the most? Which painting do you like the least? I'm very curious to know what you guys think. And make sure to subscribe if you want to know what princess I'm going to do next month. I'm really excited for next month, so definitely check back in. I'm going to continue a lot of painting and it's a lot of fun, so yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I really hope you enjoyed all of these paintings and this entire setup, and I'll see you guys in the next one.